dispute are two experts on the issue. Professor Chanwit Kasetsiri is a historian and former rector of Bangkok's Thammasat University, and Mr. Pou Sothirak, former Cambodian ambassador to Japan and a visiting senior fellow at the Institute of Southeast Asian Studies. And thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me this evening. Professor Chanwit, I want to start with you. Now, Thai troops say they will not withdraw unless they have talks with Cambodia. So, what concessions are the Thais expecting from Cambodians?
Well, I think in the mind of the military, they want this overlapping area, the so-called 4.6 square kilometer next to the temple. So that's been the main argument for years now.
Mm-hmm. And so then do you think Cambodia will compromise, Mr. Pou Sothirak?
Well, I think that Cambodia have been frustrated with Thailand and has been in a way lost confidence in the bilateral mechanism with respect to this border clash. Mm-hmm. And compromising, I think when you deal with territorial national territorial dispute, it's very difficult for compromising something that belongs to you. But I think Cambodia have shown that we willing to talk to Thailand under the framework of third-party mediations.
Okay, so speaking of the third-party mediation, Professor Chanwit, do you think then that a demilitarized zone will help solve the conflict?
Oh, this is a big help. I didn't expect this much, you know. So I think this order from the World Court would help a lot. It will help the people along the border of both sides. They need peace badly. They want to make their living. So now they will feel rather safe to go on with their daily life. And I think this would be good for the temple itself, because they can go on with the restoration, preservation work. And I also think that this would help ASEAN as well, because observation team can enter the area from now on.
Right. Mr. Pou Sothirak, do you agree as well to that the demilitarized zone is actually a good idea then?
I think it's a good step in the right direction, but it's very much depend on the Thai military. Sorry to say this, but it has been an open secret that the Thai military has taking center stage with respect to any solution with regard to with Cambodia on these issues.
Right.
So I think this is in the right direction, provided that they agree to the term and condition that was called by ICJ on the one hand and ASEAN on the other hand.
Okay. Well, Professor Chanwit, you said that this would be the demilitarized zone would be good. It will help the restoration of the temple. But do the Thai population at large, do they really want sovereignty over the temple, or is it just a case of perhaps misplaced nationalism here?
I think you're quite right about the word misplaced nationalism. My feeling is that the July 3rd election is more like a referendum by the Thai people, that they didn't want this problem. That's why they didn't vote for the party which play up the nationalistic issue. The Social Action Party and Mr. Sothirak, the cabinet minister who walked out from UNESCO in Paris, didn't get the vote. I mean, he failed. So I read it as a kind of the wish of the general population of Thailand, that we want peace and we want to go on with our daily living, making friends and cultural economic exchange with Cambodia.
Right. Well, speaking of that, Mr. Pou Sothirak, the election watch, she has said during her campaigning that she wants, to take to improve ties with Cambodia. So, do you think her softer stance then will perhaps, help Cambodia in a way?
Yes, I think it is also a positive sign that Thailand have now decided to elect a new prime minister, and personality play a very good way in forging closer relationship. Cambodia have quickly sent a congratulatory message to her already. But I think the Prime Minister Yingluck to be must reconcile Thai society in a big way, particularly all the political group that have used nationalism as a way to inflame these conflicts and to put back in perspective the desire to have Cambodia as a good neighborhood and the desire to use ASEAN as a way to settle conflicts and not to resort to the use of forces. I think if she can somehow bring that back, there will be good prospects.
Right, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me and for that analysis. And that was Professor Chanwit Kasetsiri from Bangkok's Thammasat University and Mr. Pou Sothirak from the Institute of Southeast Asian Studies. Now, government-sanctioned buns are flying off the shelves in Shanghai. The authorities stepped in to certify the production process of the food staple after a tainted food scandal earlier this year. The approved buns have proven so popular that they're threatening to put other manufacturers out of business. Channel News Asia's Shanghai correspondent Kristin Lim reports.
Steamed bun or mankou is a